Morgan Schmidt, and I'm a local pastor at First Presbyterian Church. And more recently, over the past year, I lead a community called Pandemic Partners on Facebook. Pandemic Partners started, of course, in response to realizing that coronavirus would be a reality for us here in the United States about mid-March of 2020, and kind of came out of, at least for our church, a desire to not just worry about what happens to worship on Sundays, but how do we continue to be a presence of love in the community? How do we continue to serve our neighbors? And kind of on a whim, thought, maybe if we start a Facebook group where people can connect and help each other out, that could be kind of a cool platform. And so Pandemic Partners was born, and it was this really simple premise of, if you need help, make a post and ask for help. And if you can help, comment and connect with that person, in a safe way and help them out. And couldn't really believe the way that we kind of grew overnight. Like 3,000 people joined this movement of kindness in the first 24 hours, I think. And a year later, we have about 12,000 members that are continuing to just practice this radical kindness towards their neighbors. And we've started to call it crowdsourcing kindness, where someone can ask. And we can't fix huge systemic issues, but we can do what neighbors are meant to do and look out for each other. The power of that kind of energy for love and kindness, that kind of community buy-in. And so really started opening doors for Pandemic Partners as a group, and myself as kind of the curator of that space, to be involved in some other advocacy work here in Bend. And was shocked to be invited to some pretty big tables to have conversations around equality and social justice on a grander scale, not specific to COVID, but we know that the COVID pandemic has highlighted things that have been pandemics in our community, in our country for a very long time. Pandemics of poverty, pandemics of racism, pandemics of climate change, you could say. And so it's just been such an honor to be in a position where over the last year I have met just some of the most amazing human beings in our community who are doing incredible work. Like, I feel like a child in their presence, just learning from them and becoming aware of some of these people who have been working so hard for so long for justice, and so that our whole community can flourish. And for whatever reason, Pandemic Partners has kind of given me a platform to not only connect with those people, but highlight, elevate their work and try to get them some more support. The gift of Pandemic Partners is, I keep expecting us to run out of steam. I keep expecting it to just be like a fleeting phenomenon. But people really want to help. I don't think that energy ever goes away. I think we sometimes just run out of ideas or don't know how to help. And so through Pandemic Partners, we've got this really cool way of saying, hey, you've still got that energy. Here's where you can put it. Here's some tangible ways you can actually help your neighbor. And then connecting those folks with the Homeless Leadership Coalition, Black Lives Matter here in town, all kinds of these movements with these incredible local leaders, just adds energy, adds communal buy-in to these things. So it's been a lot of those relationships that have allowed me to step into those advocacy roles, whether that's standing in a parking lot for 14 hours and standing in solidarity with our undocumented neighbors when the ICE buses were here over the summer, or standing alongside our local Black activists saying, yes, Black lives do matter. And then being able to say, when the smoke comes, we have neighbors who can't escape it. So what does it look like to open our doors at the church for people experiencing homelessness to be able to breathe for a few days, or to warm up when it gets cold? It's just been an incredible privilege. There's part of me that sometimes worries that it'll become less glamorous to care, if that makes sense. There's part of me that worries as we go back to whatever word we're going to use for the new normal, that we'll start to forget this magic that we've tapped into of caring for each other and going out of our way to advocate for one another and to practice this radical kindness. I think we all know that in the grand scheme of quote-unquote normal life, it can get really fast. It can get really insular. We can be more and more separated, which is ironic in a COVID time where we're told to physically distance. In a way, I think that's made us more connected, at least in terms of care for one another. It's been an experience of solidarity, not one that I would wish on any of us, but I think as we get caught back up in the normalcy of life and the everyday freedoms that we all miss desperately, that it's easy to kind of forget that this work needs to continue. It's easy to forget that there's not an on-off switch. It's just always on, that the work of justice and the need for kindness continues far beyond pandemics, far beyond COVID, and we've got to stay tuned in. We've got to keep paying attention. I am so excited about people really waking up to ways they can impact our community for good. The way people are truly embracing this notion that we belong to one another, that our restoration is bound up with each other's restoration. Like my goodness depends on your goodness, and vice versa, and that we can affect change for the sake of flourishing of our neighbors. So I'm really excited that that's happening on a systemic level. Conversations with the city of Bend and our city council, I think, are moving in really exciting directions in terms of advocating for our neighbors experiencing homelessness. I love seeing groups pop up and watching community members realize what brings them life and what kind of kindness or service energy really makes them come alive. And then they just start things, and I'm like, how can I help? How can I support you? How can I cheer you on? And I'm really, really excited to see some of the dots start to connect. I think part of the magic of Pandemic Partners early on and why it's been such a powerful force in Bend is because we've been able to start connecting dots that weren't connected before. And we realize that it's incredibly powerful for government agencies to be connected to nonprofit agencies, to be connected with churches, to be connected with the broader public on a Facebook group. That those connecting of the dots and those sharing of resources and collaborations make us all stronger, make us all better. And that gets me really excited for the kind of community we can build when we work together.